Hey everybody, Blue on Gold Z, thanks for tuning in. And today I have a pretty exciting video to bring to you guys and girls out there. And as you can tell by the title of the video, this is my very first 1911 purchase. So for many years, I kind of abstained from purchasing a 1911 because I basically had access and owned and still do own a lot of the Wonder pistols, the Wonder polymer steel hybrid pistols, such as the Springfield Armory XD, which is my very first gun, Springfield Armory XDM, which is my current everyday carry gun, and then also a Walter P99 that I purchased at a gun show, brand new, because I felt that the Walter P99 is arguably the best looking, sexiest looking semi-auto pistol ever created. So because I had access to all of these guns, I never really felt the need to purchase a 1911. For many years, I also thought that the 1911 was only chambered in 45 ACP, whereas all the pistols that I mentioned are chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, which is my overall favorite pistol caliber. But roughly, probably mid 2015 or so, especially living here in Texas with all the people that I've met that have their own 1911s urging me that I should get a 1911, I started doing some research. Now the thing is that because all of my pistols are chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, the 1911 needed to be chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson as well. I know that there are some 1911 purists out there that say that the 45 ACP is the only round that should be shot out of a 40, or excuse me, that's the only round that should be shot out of a 1911. But I don't subscribe, to that theory or to that practice. So over the course of a few months, I did some, half-assed research for 40 caliber 1911s, and finally I came across one that caught my eye, and it was by Rock Island Armory, which is owned by a Filipino company called Arms Corps. So with me being half Filipino, I thought this was kind of a sign. There was some incentive to purchasing this gun. And the thing is that when I came across this gun on their website, it immediately caught my eye as far as its overall aesthetics and physical design. 1911s are pretty good looking guns in general. The A1 models, which everybody's familiar with, such as the one that Tom Hanks was shooting towards the end of Saving Private Ryan, they're all pretty handsome guns. But I couldn't really, the look of the gun never really pushed me over the edge. Uh, don't get me wrong, the functionality, the reliability, the performance of the gun is definitely paramount and the primary reason that I would purchase a gun. But let's not kid ourselves. Guns tend to be pretty expensive, so if I'm going to be purchasing a gun and shelling out some hard-earned cash, I'd like the gun to actually be good looking as well. And in my opinion, this gun definitely fits the bill. Now, you may be asking, what's the reason why this particular 1911 I found is really aesthetically pleasing compared to other 1911s, and I'll answer that question right now. And the thing that basically caught my eye is the fact that it has what they call a full-length dust cover down here in the frame. Most of the A1 models of the 1911 have beveling that either starts here up in the slide and then continues downwards at kind of like a slope, so that it looks like there's like shaved away metal, here in the frame as well as in the slide. And I figured out that was actually the reason that I didn't particularly like the A1 style 1911s, is because they had that beveling. So when I came across this particular gun and I saw that it had a full-length dust cover, and it was basically, it met up with the slide up here, and it has a very straight edged look, that immediately caught my eye. And I was like, this, I know this is just an opinion, but this has got to be the best 1911, like best looking 1911 that I have ever seen. I thought that it was incredibly handsome. Um, so what I did is, I obviously, aesthetics is not the only reason that I'm going to buy a gun. I do plan on using this for home defense as well, and maybe even carry after I basically put it through its paces and check its reliability and accuracy. But the main thing that you want to do is you want to obviously make sure that the gun is of high quality and is accurate and, of course, reliable. So that's when I started delving into some of the stats and other reviews on forums and YouTube to see whether or not this gun would be a good purchase. And from what I could tell, it actually was. So I went ahead and bought it, and I thought that it was a pretty good gun for the amount of money. I got it for $630, which I think is pretty awesome, especially for an all steel gun. The whole thing is steel. As a matter of fact, after I received it, which was about 2 weeks ago, I gave it a before I shot it. I haven't even shot it yet. I gave it a good cleaning and a re-oiling, and I took off these grips right here, and I expected to see basically a skeletonized structure behind the grips, meaning that in other 1911s, particularly in A1s, when you take off the grip, I believe you can actually see inside the grip area, so where you can actually see the magazine in here. But when I took off the grips on both sides, it was solid steel. It was solid steel throughout. So the frame or the chassis is all steel, the slide is steel, and of course the barrel is steel. I'm not really sure if there's any aluminum on here whatsoever, and I know for sure there's no plastic or polymers in the frame either. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll get over the boring stuff, which is also going to be interesting nonetheless and important, is the overall stats. So what I'll do is I'll run over some information real quick, and we'll move on. So this is a Rock Island Armory, as you already know, 1911 A2. A2 meaning that it's a double stacked version, as opposed to the single stack. It is known as the full-size tactical model because it has the rail, and full-size meaning it's the government issue or the GI model that has the full 5-inch long barrel. So I definitely wanted the longer barrel. The barrel is a 1 in 16-inch twist, and it's made from 4140 ordnance grade steel. So it's supposed to be a pretty hardy heavy-duty steel, and I believe it's also button rifled as well. The weight comes in at 2.49 pounds unloaded, so with a full magazine, it's probably breaching well over 3 pounds, maybe 3 1/4 to 3 1/2. I haven't weighed it, but it is noticeably heavier than most, or yeah, I would say most polymer guns, or at least the ones that I own. As I mentioned before, the whole entire gun is an all steel construction. And what else? Let's see. So yeah, as I mentioned before, the capacity is 16 plus 1, so 17 total rounds of a 40 caliber and a 1911. I think is very, very appealing. The SKU number, and actually this is important that I'm mentioning this, the SKU number is 51782. So if you are interested in getting this gun and you find a local dealer or a distributor, and you are interested in the 40 caliber, it's SKU number 51782. Now, before I go any further, this is very important because I was on Rock Island Armory's website, and they don't actually have this specific model on their website. So a little, chat screen popped up and says, "Do you want to chat with a customer service rep?" And I said yes, and I asked them, I said, "How come I can't find the 40 caliber double stacked A2 version that has the tactical rail?" And the girl came back saying that it had been discontinued. And when I asked why it had been discontinued, they said that there was low demand for the 40 caliber version of this gun, but they still offered it in 10 millimeter, 9 millimeter, and 45. So you may ask how I got this. Well, this gun was created in 2014 based on the quality control paperwork that came with it inside the box. So there are still some of these guns floating around in the United States. I don't know how many. I would probably think probably think it's no more than 1,000. I could be completely wrong, but the point is, if you are a 40 cal fan like I am, and you want a double stack badass 1911 that looks this great, uh, you probably want to jump on it because they might be disappearing soon because Rock Island Armory is no longer producing this specific model. Now they do have they do have this gun in 40 caliber that basically is identical to this gun, but it's a competition model, meaning that it doesn't have the rail right here. And because I do have a tack light, I wanted the rail, but instead the competition model, which they still currently make, it's basically none of this is beveled out. It's a flat piece of steel in there. So there is a competition model that they're still making. It's just a tactical fighting style, combat style 1911. 40 caliber double stack they no longer make. So they no longer make SKU 51782, but they are floating out there. Just want to get that out of the way. So let's go over some of the overall features. I guess what we can do is we can start from the front. That way I don't get kind of jumbled up. So what's interesting is that many 1911s they have and this gun has been safety checked. Many 1911s have a bushing that goes around the barrel, and this is on basically it's exposed, and that's usually responsible for um, maintaining the accuracy, basically the barrel to slide lockup. And I didn't like the idea of actually relying on another small piece of metal in order to maintain the accuracy. So what they did with this gun is they used a bull barrel. So as you can see, it's compared to especially like a 45 caliber. Look how thick that barrel is. So what happens as the slide moves back and forth, the barrel actually gets a little bit wider or thicker as it gets to maybe like the last inch and a quarter or so, or 2 inches or so. And what that does is it kind of meets up with the slide as it goes back and forth, and basically causes the gun to lock up nice and solid, allowing for greater accuracy. What I'll do is I'll pull the slide back, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but the barrel widens as it gets to the end. So as it goes forward, it tightens up on that barrel. So so it's got a full length 5-inch bull barrel made from 4140 ordnance grade steel. It's got high visibility fiber optic sights. It has basically serrations on the front, which is actually pretty handy. Comes with a tack rail that allows you to put on a laser light combination if you so choose. Also, it has a full-length guide rod, which some people don't necessarily need, but I thought that anything that adds weight to this gun to help improve the shootability is fine. So as you can see, if you pull back, you can see the full-length guide rod right there. It's a pretty hardy piece of steel. And let's see, it basically has the classic trigger, very light trigger. It's around 4 to 6 pounds. Pull, I like it. It's not as I have shot some 1911s in the past that were actually a little bit lighter, but it is adjustable as far as the travel or the over travel. There's that hole right there, and there's a screw that you can adjust. What else? It has VZ G10 grips right here, and these are pretty nice. They're made from a polymer material, I believe. I don't believe that they are wooden, but they are. They do add some grip to it. It doesn't have checkering at the front. It doesn't have basically horizontal checkering. Basically, it has this vertical line. Basically etched into the frame. That's pretty nice. It does have the checkering along the back, right here, as you can see, and it does help add some grip, basically to your palm. It does have a competition style mag well that's very flared, as you can see, so that's pretty nice. As I mentioned before, the whole entire frame is all steel, so if I remove this grip, all you're going to see is just a continuation of steel right there. Ambidextrous safety, so you have obviously a safety on this side, and then you also have a safety on this side right here. It has what they call a combat style hammer, and it does have some serrations at the back for added grip, so that's actually pretty nice. We'll double check. It's empty. So, and this is with my weak hand. It's actually pretty easy, especially with the serrations, to recock. Very nice trigger, like I said. Moving up to the top, we have some Novak style adjustable sights for the rear. The front is not adjustable. That's fine. But yeah, the sights are pretty nice. It's a standard 3-dot configuration, with the center dot being orange and then the rear side having 2 white dots. And again, they're adjustable. You can see there's like some directions right there on which way to adjust for windage. It does have I'm not sure if you would say it's an oversized beaver tail, but it does have a larger beaver tail, and it's pretty good because it gets, as you can see, it gets right up on your hand right here, and it's actually quite comfortable, and I actually think it's quite beautiful, as you can see there. What else? Mentions that it's 40 Smith & Wesson on the top of the barrel. We'll flip it over to the other side, show the other side of the gun some love. Basically, you just have your standard lever right there. There is one side. It is an ambidextrous magazine release, just on one side right there. And so that's basically it. As far as the details are concerned, the finish is parkerized, which is probably one of the cheapest finishes that you can put on the gun. But the thing is that I think a lot of the money went into, the actual materials and making everything so hardy and thick, that they didn't really want to focus too much money on basically the finish. Me personally, I love the way that the gun looks, but I may actually do a higher grade finish. I may customize the color, maybe send it to Robar Industries, where I sent my Springfield Armory XDM, or excuse me, my XD to get plated. So I might go with a two-tone look, but I really think this gun is very handsome the way it is, just with this basically monotone look, but the color of the frame is slightly different than the color of the slide. Let's see. Oh yeah, just to let you guys know, this is a Series 70 gun. Series 70 basically has to do with the fire control system of the gun, and it lacks what they call like a safety plunger, I guess you could call it, and that's what they would call the Series 80. The Series 70 basically lacks that plunger and lacks a few other pieces of material in there. And what that means is that the trigger on a Series 70 tends to be lighter and crisper and more predictable than a Series 80 that has that extra safety plunger in there that blocks the firing pin. If you're interested, search up Series 70 versus Series 80, and you can see the difference. A lot of people that are into 1911s tend to prefer the Series 70 because, again, the trigger is a little bit lighter, a little bit crisper, which leads to overall greater accuracy. So basically, now that we've got all of the stats out of the way, one more thing is that the trigger is a 4 to 6 pound brake. It's by far easier. I mean, XDs and XDMs have really good triggers, but even still, most 1911s, with their standard factory triggers, are going to be even nicer than a good striker fired pistol like an XD or XDM. So this is a 4 to 6 pound trigger, and I love it. I think it breaks really well. We'll see how well it does when we take it to the range. So now that we've got the stats out of the way, I'll put some more of my subjective opinion on it. So some of the research that I've done on what makes a good 1911, again, has to do with barrel lockup, or basically the slide lockup. And one of the things that I read is that if the slide rattles on the frame, like when you shake the gun, it usually means that it's a kind of a lower quality gun, and it may affect your accuracy, especially if you're going for like pinpoint accuracy, where anywhere from like 5 to 7 yards, you're trying to put bullet hole on top of bullet hole, or have bullets go through the same hole, or have holes that are touching each other. I heard that 1911s that rattle are not particularly great for that. So uh, what I did is, when I got the gun and I checked, they basically call it the wiggle test or the rattle test. There's no magazine in here at the moment, but if you actually, this hand might not be the best because I have my watch in there, so I'll use my right hand. But basically, if you rattle it, you don't hear any rattling from the gun at all. I mean, it's locked up solid. Another test is that when you look in the back, how well the basically the rails are that you see right here. How well are they matched up to the frame? Do you see a lot of space in between them? Do you see a lot of light? And as you can see, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it doesn't move at all. You don't hear anything. So maybe you can hear my watch. That's my watch shaking. And again, we'll do the without the watch, and you don't hear anything. I mean, this gun basically is locked up pretty well. The overall materials that seem to be in here, they're very thick and hardy. I mean, here's the bull barrel, as you can see, full length steel guide rod, really thick uh, dust cover and frame going all the way back. And basically, this seems like the kind of gun that, if it can function well, which I have faith that it will, it seems really hardy, and it seems like you're getting a great deal of features and overall structural integrity, for the money. Um, there is one gripe that I had, but again, for the money, it's not that big of a deal. So the fit seems to be fantastic. Um, the materials seem to be pretty fantastic, especially for the money. But the one part where you would expect this to kind of have some downfalls, in which there is the finish. And the finish, it's not that great, but I still think it's awesome. When I got it from out of the box, it had this little piece of missing parkerization right there. And then when I took the gun out and I started, disassembling it for cleaning, like kind of where, I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's some missing parkerization right here. And then where the insert goes for the lever, some of the metal that's inside the frame behind this lever, it's a little bit, jagged. It hasn't been basically, fine sanded down or ground down with any kind of grinding tools. So that's fine. So basically, the finish, I would say, is not that great. But this is a gun that you're supposed to go out there and shoot a lot of. So I don't necessarily want a gun that's too pretty, like an STI. Eventually, I may get an STI, but that gun is about $2,200 compared to $635 or $630. So, but overall, I've been very impressed so far with the construction of the gun, the materials of the gun, and one thing that a lot of people, especially Rock Island, tout is not necessarily the materials and the construction, but all the features that you get on this gun. That for years, many people that were making 1911s that were in the $500 to $600 range lacked a lot of the features that come here from the factory. So, for instance, a lot of cheaper 1911s, they won't have front serrations. They won't have a rail. They won't have the full length guide rod. They won't have a bull barrel. They'll rely on some sort of bushing that goes on the outside. It may not have high vis, front sights. It may not have an adjustable trigger. It won't have, a flared out mag well. It won't have an oversized or larger beaver tail with a good quality backstrap safety. It won't have a combat style hammer with serrations. It won't have, Novak style high quality adjustable sights, and they won't have, ambidextrous safeties. It'll just have a safety on one side. So basically, for years, 1911s that used to be only priced from $500 to $600 would typically have, none of the things that this gun has. So I find it, basically we're living in a golden age where you don't necessarily have to buy some super expensive gun in order to compete and be just as accurate and reliable, um, as an expensive, very expensive gun. You can get away with getting some really good performance and quality and reliability nowadays at a much more economical, price. So, but overall, this is my first impression of the Rock Island Armory A2 double stack 40 caliber 1911 from the Philippines, and so far I've been very impressed with it. And we'll take it to the range and we'll do some functionality and reliability and of course accuracy tests and see how well it pans out. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for probably at least 2 more videos in this quote-unquote series. I'm going to be doing again a shooting video to test reliability and accuracy, and then the third video will probably be when I'm past about 1,000 rounds. See how well it's holding up, see if there's any kind of rattle in the gun, see if anything's broken, and we'll probably take a shooting again and see how well it's holding up as far as accuracy is concerned. But thanks again for watching. Blue on Gold Z signing out.